Hello everyone and welcome to the Hints of Hisui podcast. I'm Wolf Tycho and I'm here with Canerade 5, Tomix 9 Tomix, and Atomic Reactor.
Ooh.
Hello.
Hey.
Yeah, thanks so much for being with us here at Atomic Reactor. I know we've been trying to get this scheduled and happening for a couple months now.
Yeah, no problem. Glad to be here.
Did you want to introduce yourself, Atomic Reactor, or would you rather have one of us try to do it for you?
No, I can do that myself. That's fine. I'm Atomic Reactor. That's not my my parents didn't give me that name. That's just a screen name I came up with when I was 13. I have been making fan games for a really long time, like too long. I want to say since 2008-ish, maybe 2007.
Oh,
I don't quite remember. Yeah, it's an embarrassingly long amount of time.
So that may have been when I was born.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about that specifically though. So yeah, I've been doing that for a long time. I've made quite a few projects, and my last one and final one, Infinity, has been out for a couple of years now, and it's getting its final updates, and it's, I don't know, out there to play. So that's a fan game, and this show is about fan games, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, that's him. And for, I guess, some other people who don't know, Atomic Reactor is also somewhat well known in the community. For one, he was a founder of Relic Castle, the old fan game community.
Oh yeah.
And he also used to have a series on YouTube where he taught people how to make fan games, which is how a lot of us got into the hobby.
Oh yeah, whoops.
What do you mean, whoops?
It was, I don't know. That was a long time ago. But yeah, I did those things too.
Yeah, a lot under your belt.
Crazy. But yeah, the first question I have, as someone who is, important to the community, what's your stance on Overworld Shadows?
Overworld
Oh
Shadows?
My God.
Oh god.
Well, is there like some backstory to this?
Yes.
They're important. They add a sense of depth. So they're cool. I don't know. A 10 out of 10 on Overworld Shadows? Okay.
There you go.
I think
Andy
that's-
continuing to push the agenda that Overworld Shadows are necessary, which I don't disagree with.
So who's the demographic you're trying to reach? Like, are there people out there that think Overworld Shadows are like not cool?
Tom, I guess.
Andy thinks
Tom.
even, well, yeah, because you don't need them in a Gen 3 game.
Yeah, I guess you don't need them.
Oh my god.
I prefer them. I heavily prefer them. Let's put it that
My
way.
depth perception is going to be off, so it's going to be so much harder to navigate like the maps if there's not a shadow to tell me where the light source is coming from.
I do not belong here.
Interesting. Yeah, I think Tom. I think you're just the minority at this point. Like.
That's okay, then.
Yeah, that's okay. Like, you can do whatever with shadows or without shadows. It's your life.
Yeah. No, but it's funny.
Yeah.
None of you guys know this yet, but the Overworld Shadows thing has become such a meme that me with some of like my friends, we wrote like a love song to Overworld Shadows.
Wow.
What?
Sure, that's cool, I guess.
Damn, I didn't know you really felt this way about Overworld Shadows, Andy.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then Ethan's first question has to do with, since unfortunately he wasn't able to be here today because of work.
Classic.
Yeah, we're gonna be a liaison, and it has to do with this image, which won't be shown, so I'm gonna describe it. It's
I love this image.
It's a great.
First of all, I didn't make the image. I didn't endorse the image. I had nothing to do with this image. Long story is, and I'm not gonna say short because I'm just gonna give you the whole thing. Our friend Aki, I believe, put Ethi in her game as a nurse. I'm pretty sure, and I just liked that idea. I thought that was kind of a cool thing to do. He's a nurse. They're a nurse, and I wanted to include them in the game just as a little cameo. And I don't. I think it was just a normal trainer. It was a nurse named Ethi, and I think it healed you. But I don't think it became like the reoccurring like Audino trainer equivalent. Like it slowly through production and releases, like people kept asking for that kind of stuff. So I think we like later made it a repeat Audino trainer for experience. And then it just eventually, as you progress through the game, the Ethi character gains more blissies, and it changes the team up, and gets stronger, and just gets more blissies to become an experience farming mechanic. And so I think that is pretty, that tells you what the image is all about.
But yeah, the image in particular is basically this cow that he's seen better days.
Has been drained.
It's like the Good Morning Sunshine meme with the guy who's got all the buckets ready to get filled with milk from a cow, and the cow on the other side of the image is extremely scrawny and looks like it's just at its wit's end. And the cow being Ethi, and the guy with all of the buckets is the player with the lucky egg on X or Y Pokemon.
So yeah, Ethi became the experience farming mechanic, and it is shown very accurately with the milked bone dry cow that is the Nurse Ethi character.
Yeah.
It
I
just
find
seems
it
so abusive and dark, and I don't like my friend Ethi being thought of in this way. So that's why I just want to clarify. I don't endorse it at all. Sorry, I cut somebody off. I'm sorry. What were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say I think it's very funny or interesting that Ethi has become a character outside of his actual self.
Yeah. I don't know. Who would you say is like who is someone that you've enjoyed working with that like first comes to mind?
Tom.
Hey.
Tom is the first person to come to mind. Tom's a part of like a smaller friend group that I'm a part of online, and some of the friends in there I've been friends with since, God, a long time ago. Oh my God, so long. And so we kind of met through that, and so Tom and I have kind of been cool for a while, and out of nowhere he kind of started helping me out with Infinity, just like with squashing bugs and quality assurance and stuff like that. And so it's been really cool to have a friend that has been kind of working with me along my side, and kind of help see through to the public release, and got to share that experience with them. So yeah, that's been pretty cool, being able to have that experience with Tom, and I really appreciate all his help with everything he's done with the Infinity Project, and just being a cool guy. Yeah, Tom, and then yeah, that's it. Everybody else I've worked with has sucked, and I don't really like any of them. So
Yeah, fuck Peter.
no, obviously that is a joke. Marco is like the co-developer. Him and I are kind of stubborn in our own ways, so we butt heads quite a bit through development, but we always are able to laugh it off later, and kind of we always just work together so well this entire time through production. And he's just, I think we're gonna be, because we just met randomly after I released the demo, and he ended up basically hopping on to help me create the metadata, I call it. And I'm not the only one that calls it that, but it's like the data that makes up the Pokemon metagame, like the competitive side of it. So when I would come up with a Pokemon, I'm just thinking of cool monsters, just cool big old guys. And when he's thinking it up, it's like numbers for some reason. And so we kind of put that together, and he started helping me with that. And I think that was 2019 he hopped on and has been pretty much my right hand man the entire time. And he's kind of taken the reins these last few months. And he's kind of helping finish up like the last big update. But yeah, I think obviously with him being that position of the project, yeah, I don't know, he had a lot to say, or a lot of say with it, and I appreciate everything he's done and contributed to the project, and I think we're going to be friends forever now. So he messed up there. And yeah, I mean, and then homeless. I mean, do you guys want me to just list everybody? I'm not really sure where how much further you want me to go with this. Homeless was the guy. What was that?
Sure, keep going.
Okay. Homeless was the artist who came up with a lot of the Fakemon designs. I saw him posting some of his early Eevee evolution designs on Reddit, and I reached out to him like just a shot in the dark and was like, "Hey, I'm making this game. Do you want to like collaborate and make your designs like playable in this?" And he was like, "Sure." And then was like, "Yeah, you can use anything I make and put it in there." And then he helped me kind of finalize some of my own ideas, and we collaborated on a few different designs. And he was fun to work with. I haven't talked to him in a while though. He kind of, I mean, I don't know what exactly is going on in his life. I just know he stepped away from kind of the more of the online scene, because he would post his art on Instagram pretty consistently and then kind of just stopped. So last I spoke to him, he was good. He was, I think, busy with a new job. So everything, as far as I know, is pretty good. But yeah, it's been a while since I've talked with him. He was fun to work with. Yeah, those are the two main ones were Marco and Homeless through development. And there's just kind of like satellites of other people that have helped here and there after kind of the development of the Discord. And we have some kind of a very tiny minuscule online scene. We've added some people to, not necessarily staff, but they're like people that we call it democracy. It's like a group of people that have beat the game, know a lot about the game, and are really helpful in the server. And we value their opinions, and we ask them like, "Hey, what do you guys think we should do here, here, here?" Kind of get feedback on stuff in development. And so they've been kind of nice to work with. It's kind of become like a small group of, I don't know if I'd say friends. I don't know if they all like each other. It's hard to tell sometimes. But they've been really helpful in testing like newer builds and just providing feedback on just final things we want to add to the game. So that group of people, have been cool to work with. A few random programmers here and there. Vendely hopped on to help push out 3.0 and polish all that up and fix all that up, and she's been a godsend. Golio Sopod user, I don't know how to say that word, never have.
Isopod, I think.
Way cooler than what I said. He helped out quite a bit with some stuff. I commissioned him for some stuff, and he was able to whip up some pretty cool stuff for our latest updates. Tex Skylander was around for a while helping with stuff, and he helped do a lot. So it's been really cool to kind of be able to work with some of these people that I've watched, on the forums and in the server and stuff. Work with other people, just kind of contemporaries, I guess you could call them, but just people that you've seen work on other projects and do cool stuff. Like, it was cool to have that opportunity to work with them. I mean, I feel like that's Tom. I'm probably forgetting somebody. Help me out.
When all your game jam efforts, were they all solo?
Were they all solo? Earthbound was, I'm pretty sure.
But yeah, I've
Sorry?
also like worked with Vendely in the past, and definitely like working with people. It's a very weird but like nice feeling.
Yeah, Vendely's super cool too. She's so
Vendely's
nice
too
and
cool.
that's weird how cool she is.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I think my game jam entries were, I hate to say that they're ever solo efforts because so much of what we do on with these fan games is built on the backbones and engine of Pokemon Essentials, which Maruno and Postle and the Flame Guru, all well, more so Maruno now with the current builds, obviously. But there's so much of the heavy lifting done by that alone, along with all the public art out there, all the tiles and character sprites, and stuff like that. All the free resources that people have shared and created. Like yes, I made though Earthbound or the Earthbound Capsule Quest and Rose Gold. I made those on my own by myself, but it couldn't have been done without all of that stuff that is available from all these awesome artists and programmers and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think like the one of the great things about like developing like fan games is really you are like standing on the shoulders of giants, and I think that like removes a lot of tedious, maybe more technical work that somebody who's just trying to jump into fan games is like not gonna be able to do. And I know that was like really important to me when I started in this community, and I think it like because you're able to use all these free resources that people have provided, it really makes this like accessible, really like great for a stepping stone, especially if you want to like expand into like the game industry and stuff like that. So I like that's, you said it, like this is one of my favorite, I think, aspects of the community as a whole.
Yeah, it's really cool, especially for old ass people like me who have been in it for so long. Like there's so many, like I've been able to work with Kyle Dove on some stuff, and for people who know anything about the fan game scene, like Kyle Dove was integral to a lot of the art direction and styles of a lot just so much stuff. And there's just artists that I've been able to like watch as they've grown, and I've grown up watching them, and there's developers that have been around for a long time that are still like occasionally doing their thing, and it's I don't know, it's kind of cool how long, like I never thought at how old I currently am, I never thought I would still be even remotely aware of this kind of stuff. Like I didn't think it would be such a big part of my life. I thought it was just going to be a little dinky hobby when I was getting into high school. But man, how much time it has consumed, and I can never get back. It's crazy.
Time well spent is not time wasted. Well, time enjoyed wasted is not wasted, or something.
Killing it.
Wise words, Tom. Wise words.
I guess, Atomic Reactor, how did you get into fan games in the first place?
Oh, I forgot to mention, that's the one thing you can't ask me about. I'm totally against origin stories. I think you're supposed to allow the listener to like form their own like origin. It just adds to the mystery of it all. So however you think I got into fan games, that's how I got into fan games. I assume you want an actual answer though.
I mean, that's pretty funny.
If you don't want to give us an answer, you don't have to give us an answer.
Oh, no, I'll tell you. So long time ago, when you guys were still in diapers, probably. Just kidding. I don't want to think about ages.
Yeah.
Let's see. It was, God, I hate the way I'm about to start this. It was 2007. And, the Pokemon games were coming out soon. It was Pearl and Diamond, the cusp of Pearl and Diamond. Gather around and I'll tell you the story about how I started to use the internet at this time. And that's how I found out that Diamond and Pearl were on the horizon. And at this time, I just, for some reason, assumed Pokemon was never making any games again. After Ruby and Sapphire came out, I was like, oh, that's made a third one. Cool. I'm glad they did that. Never gonna see him again though. And then so 1,000 years goes by because I'm not on the internet and I have no concept of time. I'm getting into middle school, high school, whatever. And then I see Cerebi, I believe. The Japanese, yeah, it was like they got all the Japanese, or the Japanese game, or it came out in Japan. Oh, and so they got all the information from that, and so they were translating it, blah blah blah. I got to see, all the sprites. I saw Dusk Noir. I don't know how you guys say that. I hope I'm saying that correctly.
Sounds right to me.
Darkrai, and I was like, whoa, these are way edgier and darker. This is crazy. And then so yeah, I just was excited about that. So that kind of like piqued my interest to look back into Pokemon with the power of the internet. And with the computer and the internet and MS Paint, I found out that I could like take sprites and I could just like do whatever I wanted with sprites, and I could make my own maps. So I made these really shitty maps on Paint using graphics from Ruby and Sapphire. They were ripped. I don't know if they were like well ripped. Oh no, they were really bad compilations. But I made maps and I made a little sprite comic. Keep in mind, they were all really bad. They didn't look good. But I was having a blast. It was fun. And I do that for a while. I start getting handier with the computer. I mean, I had played computer games in the past and kind of knew how to use a computer. I had played around in Paint when I was like a young lad. But I finally like realized like, oh, the graphics in the Pokemon games are just stuff I can make in Paint. Like that's what a sprite is. Like I started to connect the dots, or the squares, I guess, and realized that I could make sprites. Probably not that great, but I could make them. I could make edits. Oh, I made a lot of fusions. Yeah, that's how I got like better at it. Made a lot of bad fusions. Some cool fusions. But did a lot of sprite fusions and just kind of built off from that. Eventually stumbled upon this concept that I could make a Pokemon game. Like there were engines out there that I could get my hands on, and then I heard there was putting quotation marks around it, engine. And so I went around asking people. I think I joined the Poke community forums, asking somebody where this engine was, because I didn't know what the fucking engine was in this context. I was like, I know that's for a car. I'm assuming that means like the program that makes the game. I don't know. Obviously that is, what it is. And so I'm trying to hunt down this information. I'm following these breadcrumbs of how I can possibly put this game together, and I eventually end up on Poke community. I think at one point, I don't know if it's Flame Guru or like, God, Blizzaga, some name like that. They had a starter kit that was like full of Pokemon Fire Red or maybe Ruby Sapphire graphics, and I think it was real bare bones. Like it was nothing like the essential. Well, it's not saying much because the essentials we know today is nutty. But the essentials we knew in like, let's say 2017, it wasn't like that. And then after a while, I eventually just found the base of what we use today, like Possel's Essentials, and I just started playing around with that. The first game I was going to make was going to have every region in it, and it was going to be the coolest thing ever. And I stopped before I finished the first island, so that was, a humbling experience that everybody does have to go through at some point. But yeah, I feel like 2007 is kind of when I started getting into things. Probably 2008, 2009. Nah, not 2009. I was already in deep by then. Yeah, that's the origin, I guess.
And now here you are.
And here I am, far too many years later.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy to think about how much time you can sink into something, but also how much better you can get at it over time, how much you didn't know when you started, and how much you wish you did know. And I don't know, it's in retrospect it's all pretty crazy.
I think it's pretty sick to hear about how you were just splicing sprites back in the day, but obviously now I think everybody knows you're quite a good artist.
Yeah, thank you. I feel at this point I'm decent at it. When it comes to Fakemon sprites, I mean, there's definitely people that just are so much the one of the artists, Mark from Ethereal Gates or Sea and Sky, um, or Oriopoke, Twitch from Uranium, and Flux. There's some people that I've been able to work with and just kind of hang out with in online circles and just see them work, and it's just so crazy how fluidly they work. Like they make it look so easy and natural. How do they get these shapes down like almost immediately? They get the shading down so quickly, and they make it look so simple sometimes. And it's just, I don't know, it's just so cool. I bask sometimes in just how cool it is, what they can do. And so when thank you for saying I'm good at it, but oh man, there's people that are so much better. But I am proud of what I have done with the ones in Infinity. I always felt pretty good about tiles. I was pretty confident in those long before I started doing Infinity. But I was never, Fakemon were always a super big challenge for me because animal anatomy was not my thing. Drawing wise, because I am an art teacher, so I do know how to draw. Drawing wise, humans are really easy for me, but spriting wise, it's very hard for me to do that. But 2018, I started to mess around. At that point, I was like done making fan games. I was just kind of over it. I had done Rose Gold and was happy with that. But there's, at that point in 2018, I think it was late 2018, there was something cooking in my head. So I wanted to play around with some sprites. I was like, if I'm going to do this idea that I'm kind of pondering, I want to be able to have Fakemon or variant versions or something. I want to be able to have the freedom to have any kind of Fakemon or Pokemon I want. So if I'm going to do that, I should probably try and actually see if I can pull off a decent sprite. And I had made Fakemon in the past, and they just, again, the anatomy was off, everything, the shading was off. And at this point in 2018, I had practiced doing this kind of art a lot, but never really committed to doing a Fakemon one. So I started to do, God, I feel like Charizard was the first one I put together. Yeah, I think because I knew the game. I knew at this point when I started to do these sprites, I knew what the initial idea for the game was, and it was going to be my final what's that called? Magnum opus. This is gonna be the best thing I can make. So I thought, you know what? I've always really wanted to see a fucking Shenron kind of dragon for Charizard. That'd be cool. I'm gonna try and do that. I'm gonna see if I can pull that off. So I think I just took the head from Charizard, and then I built the rest of it myself, sprited the body, and I took a lot of time to just fine tune it. I came back to it a few days later and saw something different to fix, and I just sat with it instead of wanting to have it finished by a certain time, and I need to do it and then do this and then do that. Like I didn't have anything super planned out. I was just playing around with sprites, seeing what I could come up with, and so I got Charizard. I was like, damn, that looks good. And I'm pretty sure other people would agree it looks good too. And so then I started to, I felt a little more confident, so I started to do the other Fakemon. I think I had to do Blastoise and Venusaur and their counterparts and stuff like that, and they all turned out pretty good. I think from the very first creation of them, I don't think they went through any revisions, and like they never went through any revisions after the first time I made them. Sorry?
I was just gonna say, on the topic of that, you talking about Charizard just made me dig through some files, and I found a photo of like an old version of your Bulbasaur, which I thought was sort of interesting to see how it changed.
Oh yeah, I just colored the skin.
It used to just be
Tom got to see the heat. Oh man, you got to see like the
There's
workshop.
A lot of old design files,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I think Tom can attest to this. A lot of the stuff, like it turned out pretty much exactly how I planned. Like everything I planned from the early days, despite a few tweaks here and there, like the region turned out exactly how I originally wanted it to turn out. I believe I told Tom and that friend group the story and the twists and the plot and all this stuff. I think I told them that very early on, and that is how it turned out in the very end. So it's kind of cool to look back and see that I said like, hey, I'm gonna do this, and then I fucking did it.
Yeah,
It's that easy.
It is. Yeah, you've mentioned a couple times about Infinity being your last fan game. Would you be open to like returning to fan game in like a supporting role for a team or a lead developer role in the future?
Definitely not a lead developer. I don't want the responsibility. As I think, yeah, all of you know, I have a son now, and it's it's so funny how much free time having I mean, it's obvious when you say it out loud, but like how much free time they suck up. Let me just put into perspective for you. So every time I upload a like a bug fix or something for the game, on the title screen I change the version number. I just do it in Paint quick, make a little shiny number, and then update those. That usually takes I don't know, a minute and a half tops, depending on how complex the number is. Like a 3, ooh, that's tough. A 1, that's easy. It took me 2 hours to update these 2 graphics. I opened the computer, my son was doing fine, him and I were hanging out. I opened the computer up and I get a pixel or 2 in, and then he starts freaking out, and like nothing makes sense. He had just been fed, he had just been changed, nothing really is adding up. There's no logic, they don't have logic, it's crazy. And so the point I'm getting at is there's no way I could ever lead develop a game ever again until he moves out, I think. So yeah, hit me up in 18 years and I'll consider it. But support roles, I think, any of my online friends and acquaintances, like I'm always open to like just providing feedback or picking my brain or giving you thoughts on something you want to run by me. It's so hard to commit time to anything. Like I wish I could help people with graphic related things and stuff like that, but I have so little free time. It's so great. It's so great. It's so cool having a kid. Not complaining at all. But yeah, no, it's just, yeah, it'd be hard at this point to really do anything else, but I'm always there for like a cameo to pat you on the back and say, good job, you're doing it, you're doing a great job.
On that note, just by what you just talked about, I assume then you probably don't play a ton of fan games, and I don't know if you previously, like while you were more active in the community, did you play a lot of fan games then even?
No, and I just don't play a lot of games in general, and I feel like it's a curse. I don't know about you guys. I don't know about you guys, but after learning how to make Pokemon games, it's so hard to play them and not want to just go work on yours. Like I don't know, even like playing games, and this is also why I want to be done, because having a project open, it's not anxiety that I feel, but it's the feeling that like I have something that I need to complete, and I'm not going to be able to really rest until that's totally done. And so and I've been releasing final updates for so long now, but we're going to release a final update again. And then I'm hoping I'm going to be like done. I'm going to be like totally done. Like I'm finished. I'm done. Because I want like that feeling of not having an open project. Like, I don't know. I'm curious what that is like. And now I forgot the question.
Just like, do you play like a lot of other fan games?
Yeah. So no, I have not. I never have played a lot of fan games. I have played fan games, but just not a lot of them. One, there's so many that come out, and there's already, even before having a child, there's so little time in the day to be playing as many games as there are. When it comes to fan games specifically, I'm very picky because there's so many little things that like will turn me off from a game. And I think it's more so like when you know how it works and you work on them and you make them, like you pick up on these things more. Like for example, if you walk into a building and your head just covers the entire door frame, and like realistically you'd slam your head on the door frame, when in reality it should go above your character's head. Like when there's overlapping or overlapping issues, that drives me nuts. Like little things like that, or if the character graphic bobs to the left 1 pixel in the walking animation, I'm out. I can't play that. I can't walk around and have like a little problem with the character. It just drives me nuts. Like little tiny pet peeves.
Or like
God,
overworld shadows. Like if it doesn't
if
have
there's
overworld shadows, I just can't.
yeah, exactly. Yep, that's the exact same thing. Trying to think. There's so many other, and they're all little things. They're really dumb things that nobody else probably cares about. Oh, I feel like most people should care about this, and I haven't seen it in a long time. But when people would use the PNG version of 3D models of the Pokemon.
Oh, that
Oh,
drove me
yeah.
nuts.
That was like a trend, yeah.
It was terrible. That was so awful.
Especially like Pokemon, 3D Pokemon, it like 0.1% worked. Overworld characters, not even like 0.1%. It just did not work at all.
Yeah, it was rough. So yeah, there's certain things that like most games obviously everybody means well, and I'm not trying to bash anybody that doesn't have a perfect polished game. Like everybody's gonna have a game that doesn't meet other people's expectations or tastes or anything like that, and that's totally fine. But it's very hard for me to get into any games that don't pass a certain threshold of polish and quality. And that just doesn't happen that often. There's some cool games. I don't know. There's one that I saw on EV Expo. I want to say it's called Starfall. I'm not sure.
I'm so hyped for
yeah,
that game.
Starfall.
That one looks so nice. It looks so pretty. Like that's a game I would love to try. There are some games that I have been wanting to try, and I've been saying for the last several years now, when I'm totally done making Infinity and like I'm done with the updates, I'm done fixing everything, I'd like to download games and finally play them. Like I finally rest and just enjoy playing them without feeling like I should be working on mine and getting mine done. RB Genesis, I believe, is one that I'm really curious about. That second gen style one. I'd really like to check that one out. I don't know if I should wait. My friend Aki has the Tempo Rising game. I feel like she's gonna finish that, and then I don't know if I should wait for that or just play it now. I think that's the last one I played quite a bit of. Plenty of Game Jam games I want to play. I haven't played the Flux demo. I was able to test it a little bit, but I didn't get very far in testing. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure you guys know more than I do about everything that's out there and like what's up and coming. I mean, that's what's cool too, is there's always cool stuff being worked on. Like there's so many cool artists out there. Like sometimes I get real jealous I don't know Spanish or French, so I can like understand those other fan game communities. Like there's so many cool developers and artists doing all that stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, I honestly had to go back and check. I thought Tempo Rising was finished, but it's not.
Oh, unless that was like a secret.
Oh no, it has the release tag. It doesn't have the completed tag. For some reason, I just thought it was completed, but I haven't touched the game in years. But it's a great game. But I was originally playing it. But definitely, that's something to look forward to for me as well. But yeah, I just think overall there are so many games. The person that made, I don't know again how plugged in you are to the community, but the person who is making Starfall released a game for this past jam called The Tower of Ashes, which is a roguelite game, which is really fun. It was one of my favorites from the jam.
Nice.
So if that's like your thing, you could always add that to your list. Though I'm sure you have a pretty big list already.
Yeah, there's one of these days, once all the dust has settled for me finally being done, I'm just gonna scroll through EV Expo and just download everything that catches my eye. So please make sure none of them are viruses, because I don't want to have to get a new computer.
I'm just trying to look and see what other questions I had. I feel like we've talked a lot about Infinity, but one last thing that I want to know about Infinity is that you talked about all these like characters and all these Fakemon that you made for the game. Do you have a favorite character in Fakemon from Infinity?
Character like human and Fakemon like Fakemon. You know, first of all, I don't know if we've talked a whole lot about like Infinity, the game itself, more so development.
Yeah.
So if you guys have any like game related questions, always down for those. But yeah, let me think. Man, they're all so cool, and I did so great with them. I'm just kidding. I want to. This is not my real answer, but my heart wants to say Koba. This is the character who you fight. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! You fight in the tournament at the end, and is the son of a gym leader, or sorry, Ego Elder. And he is just named after my dog, and that's it. That's why I like him. But character-wise, I don't know. I had fun writing them all. Like, they're all just me channeled through these different little sprites, honestly. Like Olivia, she's the tour guide Ego Elder in the desert, and like I just wanted to make the tour so dumb and pointless and just like so like dry humor wise. Like at one point, you know, like there's that one video on YouTube about the guy looking at stuff, and no, it's like a tree, and it's like it's a aspen tree, and you can tell it is because of the way it is. And I
Love
just
that
like I
video.
always loved that joke, so I made her say that on the tour. She's like, "Yeah, and this is a palm tree. You can tell it's a tree because of the way it is," or something like that. Like it's everything she said was just so you didn't learn anything from anything she said. And that was the trial of the gym. Everybody complains that, you know, if they lose against the gym leader, then you have to repeat the tour. Like, yeah, that's your punishment for losing against the gym leader. You should have been better, and you wouldn't have had to take the dumb tour again. So joke's on you. So it's a little trolling, Jim. Yeah, so Olivia's cool. No, I mean, I guess... I guess Thorn was the most fun one to write for. I mean, that character had the most dialogue, the most complex dialogue as well. Just so much exposition. I'm so sorry, everybody. Yeah, Thorn was super fun to write. Trying to think of any other... Yeah, I mean, Thorn. Thorn was like, I'd say the main character, obviously, other than you, but I'd say, well... don't want to think about it too hard. Yeah, I'd say Thorn. As big of an asshole as Thorn is, which is intentional, they were the most fun to write and create. So yeah, I'll go with that. Locking that answer in. Then I gotta choose a Fakemon. My heart says Nidoruk. I just really love how that design turned out. I drew that on paper. The way I do my Fakemon is I draw mine on paper because I'm just better at drawing anatomy of anything with a pencil. And then I would scan that or take a picture with my phone and then sprite over it and then do all the coloring and shading in sprite form. And so that was one that was just straight from the drawing itself, really didn't need a lot of touch-ups. So yeah, but I also like the Nido King and Nido Queen designs, like those. I just like that kaiju style, those big spiky monster designs, Aggron, stuff like that. And so yeah, Nidoruk design wise, Archaeos for the concept it is. I think that I'm really happy with how that turned out. Grimfowl was really cool because I did intend that to be a normal Noctowl evolution, and I just had a drawing that I showed Homeless, and he basically revised it and made it quite a bit quality-wise much better. Very similar in what I originally designed, but he just did so much better with it. And it ended up being the Grimfowl line, which he then did the Dark Noctowl and Hoot Hoot line. So that was kind of a cool collaboration. Yeah, I'd say Nidoruk, Grimfowl, and Archaeos. Those are my favorite ones.
Yeah, but Archaeos design is just extremely sick, in my opinion.
Insane.
I still sometimes am surprised I pulled it off. That was so there's definitely a handful of sprites. So it's kind of cool how the end of development with all the sprites came to be. I, for the most part, did all the sprite work whenever we needed it. Towards the end of development, when we were in testing phases, and I just had a backlog of Fakemon sprites to finish, I basically divvied it out. I had a group of like the Avengers of fan game artists, which I'll talk about in a second. And then I commissioned some people on Twitter at the time that Twitter was, a worthwhile site. And so yeah, a handful of sprites were commissioned out, and I paid some people to make some of the finalized sprites for some. Off the top of my head, I can't think of what they would be. And then the super team was me and Kyle Dove and Sir Aquakip or Mark from Ethereal Gate / Sea and Sky, Oria Poke from Uranium and Flux, Koya Tango, who I don't know if he has any like projects out. I don't think he ever had any projects out himself, but he's been around the fan game scene for a long time and has been doing art for a long time, and he's good at what he does. He's great. And so I kind of I just like dumped this pile of just beta sprites, very similar to what we saw in the leaks recently. Like, it was very humbling to see the very similar situation. Like, they do beta sprites too. So some of the sprites would just be really rough, crude outlines with just, paint bucket colors in, like no shading, nothing like that, no quality control, just so we could play the game and make sure it all works through testing. And so I dumped all these beta sprites on them. I was like, well, at this point, they already agreed to help me out. I wasn't just coming to them and saying, hey, do this. They already agreed. Like, hey, I was like, hey, guys, would you be willing to help me out with this? And so we just kind of divvied it up, and they kind of picked and chose what they wanted to sprite. And I said, anything you guys don't do, I'll just do myself. And so, yeah, it was really cool how it all came together. And I don't know where that answer stemmed from. What was the question?
You were
Favorite
just talking about your
Pokemon.
favorite Fakemon and went into that.
So
Which
sorry.
Which is a
No,
fantastic
no,
story
it's
though.
really
That
interesting.
that really is like, I feel like you said the Avengers. I feel like that's very accurate with all of those people you listed.
Yeah.
Fantastic
It was super
writers.
cool. And it was yeah, like I said earlier, about working with Vendely and Goliosapod user or whatever, and Tech. Like, it was just so cool to work with people that I have admired for so long or like looked up to. And even though I think all of us are, if not the same age, like I'm older than some of them, I think never mind, I'm not trying to dox anybody's age right now. Like, we're all around the same age. Like, we've all been doing it for so long, and so it has been cool to finally work with them. Like, Kyle Dove and I just became friends within the last couple of years, but I've been a fan of his art since I was a young teenager. Like, it's just crazy. It's crazy how your peers that you don't even know you're gonna end up being like peers with, like, can influence you. It's kind of neat, this little fan game community, and how it like pulls people together and influences their lives in all these different ways.
Yeah.
Definitely. Like, I think most of us could say that our lives would be quite different if we didn't fall down the Pokemon fan game rabbit hole.
Oh, 100%. But like, I have a question, since I'm also doing my sort of final fan games. This is more of a personal question. When it comes to me, is like, what recommendations would you give to like making a final project to like being happy with it?
Oh, well, I think this advice would go not just for final projects, but any project. When you're doing something like this, where you're not making money off of it and it is a passion project, the first priority is to be making something that you want to play and something that you are going to find value in after you're done with it. And so with Infinity, the whole premise going in was, I want this to be my dream game. I want it to have everything I want it to have, and I'm gonna come up with a batshit insane story to make it happen. So you have to, if you're making a final project, what I would say is make whatever it is you want to make the most that you are also that's also within within reason that you can make. If like this is my dream fan game that I would make, there's some crazy cool concepts I could think up that would be cool on a PlayStation 5, but I don't know how to fucking make that. So like, within reason, make what you want as best you can. And so, yeah, I think it's just make what you want. Like, get feedback from your friends, people whose opinions you trust. But in the end, it's not going to matter if 10 people play it or 100 people play it or 1,000 people. Like, it all just comes down to if you're happy with it and like if you enjoy it. So you gotta be happy with the dialogue. You gotta be satisfied with that. I mean, that's a big part. I remember working on Obsidian, and part of the reason I never even released the final version is because there was so much dialogue I needed to have gone back and fixed because just I had gotten older and wiser and just better at writing since starting it. And so, yeah, I mean, build off the experience you have. I don't know how many projects you have under your belt, but you've holy shit. This project. So through these 11 projects, like you've obviously learned how to do things more efficiently, better, organized better. I'm sure you've gained a wealth of knowledge on just how to do it the best you can. And so I don't know. I think, yeah, like, it comes down to if you want to be satisfied with it, if you want to be happy with it, you got to make a game you want to make, which I know sounds dumb. But yeah, you can't worry about, like, there's so many people that beg me to add megas to Infinity, and I'm like, I don't give a shit about megas. I'm not adding it. I do not want them in my game. Or just dumb, not necessarily dumb stuff, but stuff I don't care about. Like, this game was meant to cater to my nostalgia of 4th generation and below, and all my good times and memories with that. So I tried to hit on a lot of different scenarios in the game that were parallel or very similar in vibes to some of those. And yeah, it's just compromise, I guess, for game quality. If you're gonna release it to people, understand, like, they're gonna have critiques and they're gonna have maybe not standards. I don't know if they have standards, but there's tastes. There's different tastes out there. There's different, people want different challenge levels. So like, if you're gonna release it, be prepared to field that criticism. But when it comes to the style and the story and the gameplay, like, just whatever it is you want, make it happen. And if nobody likes it, then that's their problem, not yours, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. Like, regardless of what you make, you're always gonna find people that like it. You're always gonna find people that want to play it. It's that old 2 cakes analogy or whatever. Like, you look at other cakes and like, oh man, that cake's so much nicer than mine. My cake looks like shit. And then the guy that's coming up to eat cake is just excited there's 2 cakes. Like, he's gonna die young, but hey, at least there's 2 cakes.
If I had a penny for every time Thomas sent me that image.
Good image, especially if you like cake. But yeah, that would be my choice. I think make the game you want to make and have fun with it, I guess. I don't know.
No, yeah, definitely thank you for the words of wisdom.
Yeah.
I'm like,
old enough, I guess.
You mentioned Obsidian, so I guess we can kind of, I don't know how many questions everybody else has about Obsidian, but you mentioned like not finishing it because you felt like you'd have to go back and edit so many things to hit like your standard of quality or how things you wanted to turn out. In the like final release state that it's in, what are your like overall thoughts on Obsidian?
Of Obsidian?
And how it turned out.
It was cool. I like how it graphically turned out. I got, what I did with that is, at the time of development of that, I was of the mind like, oh, every fan game should like have a custom style, otherwise like why even bother? Like, I was such a, what's the word? I was just such an asshole back when I was younger. And So like that's just the kind of memories it brings back. Like I was just so dumb with how I thought fan games should be. So with that game, what I was trying to do is I wanted to make it a custom style. So all the overworlds were a different style completely. They all looked a little chubby, and I some people commented on that throughout development. And but sorry, I'm just kind of reminiscing now about the game in general. You asked overall quality by the end. What do I think of it?
I mean, any comments that you have on the game at all? Because I feel like the things that you're gonna remember offer a window into how you see the game.
Sure. I don't know. I was happy with what I came up with. I learned a lot through that. I honed my art skills a lot with that. Lot of the I don't. Yeah, I think the final demo that was available had a snowy place that was available. I don't quite remember, but those graphics I repurposed for the snow place in Infinity, and so and some of the characters, the one of the gym leaders from Obsidian was repurposed as Olivia in Infinity, among other things. But yeah, no, I liked it graphically. I liked how it turned out for the most part. There was definitely because I think I was working on it in high school and then into college, and I stopped working on it in college. And I think at one point there was like an NPC in the city who made some comment about like being emotional because she's a girl or something misogynistic like that, and I think I saw it show up in like a playthrough, and I was like, God, is that really? That's fucking dumb. And there's just I think that's probably the worst of the writing it ever got as far as that kind of stuff goes. But it's just I learned how to structure stories better. I learned, how to make a game reward the player more. I thought more about playability, and there's so much more I put thought wise into everything later in development. That it would just be such a huge pain to go back and rework all of the dialogue, everything to kind of make the story work better. And that was the thing too, is with the story and the development of Obsidian is I had a good idea of what I wanted it to be, but it was the story was a bit too epic, and it wasn't concrete enough. It kind of shifted and changed as I needed through development. And so then, it would be hard to remember oh wait, where was I going with this plot line, or how was I going to use this map? And especially when you take big long breaks from development, like I did multiple times, I'd come back and be like, oh yeah, I was working on this, but how was that going to work with the plot? And was this even the plot I was using? And so it started to get to that point where it's yeah, I know I want to make this region, but plot wise, I don't know where the hell I'm going with it. And yeah, I think it was just going to be so much. Yeah, I mean, I think I mapped up to the last or one of the last cities, maybe some routes that never saw public eye. And they're decent, but I think even then when I was making them, I was like, I'm not finishing this. There's no way. Just taking in all of the work that had to be done to make the plot I was going for wrap up and happen, and all the maps that needed to be filled, all the NPCs, all the events, all the things that needed to be fixed, all the everything had to be done. So yeah, I don't know, it was I like what I did with it, but it I think a project can't survive for very long without a cohesive vision holding it together. I think that's why big projects with huge teams don't really go anywhere, and projects that have been in development for a really long time don't really go anywhere, because it's there's not a cohesion, there's not not necessarily an ambition, but a momentum. There's not a momentum carrying it and keeping it together, and when you lose that momentum, it's very hard to get it back together and see it through. And also, I was young and didn't know how to write a goddamn story, so it just wasn't great. So yeah.
Great answer. There's
Thanks.
just a lot of different things. I think it's so cool that you can look back and kind of have a two-sided view. You definitely talked about some things that you liked about the story, but overall just kind of identifying things that you weren't happy with, I guess. I don't know. I think it's just a really cool way to look at a game, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I assume, most artists, most creatives, game developers, so on and so forth. I think we all, I assume anyway. I can't speak for everybody, but I assume we all kind of look at our stuff under a more critical lens, and always want it to turn out a certain way, and like we kind of not let ourselves down, but we're not 100% satisfied when it doesn't turn out that way, which I think is just part of the process. So yeah, I think for any fan game developer, like you should always be looking at your game with that kind of critical eye. Like, is this like you happy reading this? Is this good for you? Do you like the way this looks? Would you enjoy this? Like, I don't know. I think everybody should kind of have not be super over. Don't be overcritical on yourself. Don't be mean to yourself, of course. But have a sense of pride in your work and a standard to set for yourself. And I don't know. Now I'm just kind of trailing on.
It's okay. It's good stuff. I guess
Yeah.
speaking of like your past projects, something I'm kind of curious to hear you talk about. Before Infinity and after Obsidian, you were working on a Kanto game. I don't remember the exact name you had planned. But
Kanto.
why? One more time, what was it called?
Sorry for interrupting you. I was just so excited. It was Kanto Stories.
Kanto Stories. How come you feel like that didn't really go anywhere?
Tom, do you realize how big of a project I was trying to do? Do you remember that at all?
Yeah,
my
like
God.
it was all custom tiles, right?
It was gonna be.
What?
Listen, on paper, it was a very cool idea, and in execution, it was a cool idea. It just was so much. So for anybody that doesn't know, I think this was 2015, 2014, 2015. I was getting to the point where I wanted to be done with Obsidian, so I started working on other things, and that is the death spiral of most projects. And I just thought it would be really cool if, instead of using the 16 by 16 tile ratio of everything, we could actually utilize the 32 by 32 native tile resolution of RPG Maker XP, and we could make a higher resolution graphic style. And so I set out on this really, really bold adventure, of trying to make a tile set for double the resolution, Pokemon style. I ended up making a whole bunch of character overworlds and Pokemon overworlds, and the goal was to make like, oh, it was so cool. It was such a cool idea. It was gonna be like everything's like bigger. Like Pallet Town was like an actual small village. Not like the anime, because the anime towns, like reasonably, you're never gonna make a town that big in game and have it be fun to play in. But it had, instead of 2 houses, it had maybe 6 or 7 houses, and there was like farmland, and then like Viridian City was like, it was kind of like Fire Red Leaf Green, but 20 years in the future. Not in game, not story wise, but just like the place had been developed, more areas had opened up, and so there was like a woods off to the right of Pallet Town, and there was like, anyway, the idea was to expand on all the towns and make, I don't know why, like I wasn't so young and dumb that I thought this would actually be doable, because as I'm about to say it out loud, I just realized how gargantuan it sounds. So every town and city would be expanded, and every NPC would have its own unique life and be its own unique character. And I don't know, I doubt I was going to do relationships, but the player was going to have like a stamina system. So it was going to be like a farming sim mixed with Pokemon. And it was supposed to be like a real chill, laid back, like battling wasn't like the focus, but it's still obviously a part of it because it's on the Essentials engine. And it was just going to be like a cool retelling of Kanto, which everybody loves, in this new higher resolution style, where like it's developed. I had I think I was gonna have a highway, not like a super urban looking highway, but a road off to the left of Pallet Town that went north over the forest and to Pewter City. I ended up mapping all the way to Pewter City, and I had the forest. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I had the forest. And everything in between. I think I had interiors. Can't quite remember. I'm pretty sure I had interiors. And a whole I had a whole style made, and then I got to Pewter City. And then I looked, over Mount Moon and thought, wow, that's a shit ton of Kanto I still have to do. And yeah, I don't. I think I probably, because I remember I was still in college at this point. Yeah, I don't know when I gave that up, but I think when I posted the thread for it when it was back on Relic Castle, I even said I'm gonna try and get up to Pewter City, but I'm not promising to finish this. But I would like to try and make something playable. So mapping wise, I completed my goal. But game wise, did not get anywhere close. Oh, and that was the thing too. Is what I wanted to do was a little too hefty, and I knew this, but I thought I could finagle something together because with the stamina system and stuff, like a farming, making it more oriented on player survival. That was going to require programming, which I've never known how to do. My entire time in this field, I have never learned. I understand the logic behind the programming. I just don't know the syntax, the language. The right. I'm not literate in it in any way, shape, or form. But I excelled in the art aspect, the level design, and just learning the ins and outs of RPG Maker and how Essentials works and stuff like that. So obviously, I made some games out of that. But in order to really see that vision through for Kanto stories, I had to know how to program because I had found a couple people that were helping me here and there, but it is very, very difficult to find somebody that knows how to program well that also wants to make the project with you. I've been lucky enough to get help from a bunch of different programmers throughout development of Infinity and stuff like that, but I've never had somebody stick it out from beginning to end or from when they've joined till the end. It doesn't happen. It's a commodity. People that program are voodoo. I don't know. It's crazy.
Well,
Yeah.
As someone who's a software engineer but does not do any programming for RMXP, it's so funny because I just if this engine wasn't in Ruby, I feel like I'd actually be able to do stuff. But Ruby
That's
is just so foreign to me that I could not I wouldn't even know where to start.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I went back and checked the Kanto Stories thread, and it is it's a lot. It is.
Yeah.
It is so much. Just even with the screenshots posted, and if you only made progress up to Pewter City, this feels like it could be its own game.
Well, and that was kind of the idea. Is I felt with what I was trying to do up to Pewter, just having the Pallet Town district up to Pewter City, that would be enough for a game. Harvest Moon and Stardew Valley, those things take place in one town. So yeah, and now that you bring that up, now that we talk about that, I think that was the plan. Is I don't need to do all of Kanto. That would be cool, and maybe in the future. But I think the plan was just do the county, just do those 3 towns for now, and that's totally enough. But yeah, like I said, got through it mapping wise, but didn't want to see it through. Yeah, I think the game jams kind of took me away from that. I think that was the nail in the coffin for that project.
Game jams do make it really hard to work on big projects outside of that. Typically that's what's killed a lot of my projects in the past.
Yeah, it's crazy to me that Relic / EV Expo has game jams as I feel like every few weeks it's a new game jam. I just can't keep up.
It's a lot.
When it starts getting cold out, I'm oh, the winter game jam is coming.
Yep. Yep. Mm-hmm. Speaking of game jams,
that's the summer one.
Huh?
What was that?
Oh no, I was just saying. Then after that's the summer one.
Yeah, see, it never
Yeah.
ends.
Like by the time I get like done streaming all the games, I feel like it's like, oh yeah, time to start working on the next jam. Crazy.
My God, I do not miss running Relic Castle.
Yeah, wow. Just looking at Kanto stories, it does seem like a really cool idea. And just like the screenshots, honestly, the art style is kind of sick. Like seeing the Bulbasaur walking sprite, the Snorlax in the paddock.
Yeah, that was quite, and that was, I'm glad I did it though, because that game gave me so much practice, like so much more pixel art practice. When you need when you need to recreate an entire art style in a higher resolution, you kind of have to do all of the work to make that happen. And I was like, yeah, no problem, I can do that. And yeah, so I'm glad I did it. Obviously didn't see it through, but oh man, the practice was invaluable that I got from it. God, there's some really cool buildings I made for, I think, Viridian City. Like, I don't know if I showed it in the thread, but there's like a melt tank like shop or something that
I do see
I don't know.
it's like it has the sign has like
Okay,
a melt
right.
tank head on it. It says market.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, there's some
also like
stuff
this
I did
big
for that I was proud of.
windmill.
Oh yeah, I had to make that windmill. That was man, I had so many cool ideas for that. Oh well.
Wait, was this the original? Oh, we can get to that. Was this the original? Because in Flux, there's a windmill. Does this windmill animate like in game? Do you remember if it does?
Oh yeah, it does. It does not animate as nicely as the Flux one does. Mine was just, I don't know what the hell JV did there. I think, yeah, I don't know how he made that rotate so smoothly. Mine was just a character sheet that just animated through different cells. Like, it was nothing crazy.
That's still like, yeah, I don't know what they did for Flux, but like, I feel like that's a lot too, just to animate it the way you did, though.
When you have a lot of free time and ambition, among other things, it's not too bad.
Yeah. Well, so back to what I was originally thinking before I got sidetracked by windmills. You mentioned game jams. You've made a few games for those jams, including Earthbound Capsule Quest and Rose Gold. Just like, how do you look back on like those games, and when you made those games, what did you like want to get out of like the development experience of making those games?
Well, I can confidently say there was nothing I wanted to get out of it developmentally. Like, I never thought about it like that. So I definitely can't answer that. Good question though. Now with Infinity, that I could probably, that I wanted to get something out of it developmentally. But with Earthbound Capsule Quest, man, that was so early in the Relic Castle game jam, dude. I don't know if that was the first game jam or second one. Yeah, I don't know. I just, it was, I think I was on the team coming up with the rules for the game jam. To be quite honest, I believe Ava, who went by DEO at the time, and Aki, they kind of ran the site for the most part in the final phases before I left. I really helped kind of get it off the ground and like start it up, and I think I used my YouTube channel to kind of direct people to it and stuff. But Aki and Ava really were the ones running the behind the scenes stuff and keeping the site a site. And I think I also was the funder. I was the financer. And I don't think I am anymore. I don't think I have any recurring payments still. I hope not. No, you guys take care of that, right? So yeah, I was in behind the scenes, so I knew when we were going to be doing the game jam and stuff. And I really don't remember what sparked the idea for Earthbound Capsule Quest. I think because I have played Earthbound a couple times in my life. I don't know if this was one of those times. So I don't know if it's like I was playing it and that inspired me. But I knew it was a month long. I think oh, you know what? I bet all it was as simple as I was scrolling the Spriter's resources I do up to this day. I still just check that every couple days a week, just to see what new sprites are being added. And I looked at Mother 3 and I looked at the Earthbound graphics and I just thought, wow, it'd be so cool to make a game with that. And then, the game jam happened. I was like, cool, I can play around with Earthbound graphics and just make like a little, game for, that has no, I don't have to worry about the quality of the story. It's a game jam. I have a month to make it. Let me play around with these graphics. And then I whipped together a little bullshit story to just, make something playable, and I just had fun with it. And, the cool thing with Earthbound is that the dialogue is already zany and weird and like not to be taken seriously, so I got to have fun with the dialogue for Earthbound Capsule Quest, and I think that definitely was the start of how I would take my writing direction with future projects. So yeah, had a blast making Earthbound Capsule Quest. That was really fun, basically just making a Pokemon game but reskinning it with Earthbound stuff, using the weird ass creatures from Earthbound. And then yeah, the next one was Rose Gold, and I think at the time, I want to say that was 2016. I think at the time of Rose Gold, I was like, okay, I'll do this, but I'm out of college. I'm gonna start my teaching career. I kind of want to be done making fan games. And so I made Rose Gold, and I don't know if it's because I knew I had, the short amount of time, or what it was, but the planning process and organization process for Rose Gold was the most efficient I had ever been. So my format or method or approach was basically I would map all the towns and routes first, then go through and map all the interiors, then go through and fill the interiors with characters and do the events for all the story. And because mapping is my favorite thing to do, I probably knocked that out within the first week of development. And from there, it's smooth sailing for me to just do some random events in the town, write some silly little characters, put together a little story of going back and forth. Like, I don't really remember what the plot was. Something with Ho-Oh, because Ho-Oh is cool. I know it was red in Tojo, like I know the setting, but I don't remember like what you were supposed to do other than just play around. But anyway, the approach I took to making it was so much easier with all my experience from other projects just to see the entire scope of the project. Like I could see it all at once, like in my head, and like I don't know, just the way I executed Rose Gold was just very satisfying and felt very like I had a really good handle on what I was doing. And I'm pretty positive I did that one on my own. I think like Solerba or Max helped me with some stuff. What was
so
Tom? Were you gonna say?
According to the archives,
Yeah.
Rose Gold was you, Solerba, and Mr. Gala.
Okay, so they must have helped me with some sort of programming stuff. Yeah, I feel like Teo helped me with, or Mr. Gala helped me with. God, the more I try and I can like picture the area of what they helped me with, but the more I think about it, the blurrier it becomes. But yes, they helped me with that project for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
no.
Interesting. Like hearing you talk about like.
Oh yeah, thank you.
About like early game jams, especially because I feel like game jams have definitely changed a lot.
They have very much changed.
Especially like when you were saying like, oh, story is not that important. I can just whip something up for a month. Because I mean, literally, I think it was last summer jam. I was part of a team. I was one of the head developers. We made a completely open world 8-gym Pokemon game.
For the game jam?
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, like that's what I mean by like game jams have definitely progressed in you kind of have to go out there wild.
I think this is
I'm
like
so glad I'm retiring.
Yeah, this is a progression in my opinion with like a lot of like the free resources that you can use just makes like a lot of the extra like Pokemon-y stuff that has become so like common in the Pokemon games or in fan games. You can just throw all of that in there and plug it in, and like it's a lot easier to make, I feel like, a longer game if you're not doing as many custom things. However, with that being said, if you do want to do custom things, like that's where a lot of the time gets spent for some other projects, and you can see like a large time difference. Though I will say, I still think that an 8 gym game is absolutely insane for a jam project.
Especially because we also had Fakemon.
Oh wow, you young guns are crazy.
Yeah. I still don't know how he did it. Honestly, like there are so many. Yeah.
Some of the devs I feel like right now are like crazy in the amount of content that they can create, just in such a short amount of time. And I think it's just like the constant iteration of like developers and like content and whatnot. I feel like as the community progresses as a whole, I feel like I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Arms race. Everything's got to be bigger and grander and better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if it's already been asked. If it has, you can just ignore the question. But like outside of obviously the game jams, has there been anything else in the community that you feel like has changed a lot over the last lot of years?
I mean, the biggest thing is just the format in which we all communicate. You know, it started off, you know, I got started, the first online friends I made in this community, I met through, like, I just Googled Pokemon chat and found some sketchy backwoods website that had Charmander in the corner, and it was just a chat box. And like, I would just like hang out in there, and sometimes people would come through and we'd chat, and like sometimes we'd come through at the same time the next day, you know. Then you just like make friends, and then, you know, eventually stumbled upon Poke Community, and it was like, oh, okay, now you can actually like keep track of, like, you know, you can send messages to people, and it's not like hoping you see them again someday. But yeah, so everything was very forum based, or yeah, I mean, I guess we had AOL, you know, AIM and MSN, you know, old school instant messaging clients. So it was a combination of forums and that kind of stuff. And I think, yeah, towards, you know, in the last, I can't even think of how long. What's the year? 2024. Jesus Christ! In the last 9 years, you know, big shift toward, you know, with Discord when that came out. I mean, I think Relic was trying to find like a good, because we used Skype for a while. Oh my god.
I remember the
We
Skype days.
Yeah, we used Skype for the Relic chat, and then, you know, Discord showed up, and that, you know, I think that kind of changed everything. Like, who needs a fucking forum at this point? You know, Discord, and yeah, just the communication formats. You know, people are the same. You've got people that are real petty. You've got people that are real ambitious. You've got people that are real quiet, real out. I mean, you're always going to have the variety of people, all the variety of developers. You're going to have the big projects with huge teams that are stagnant. You're going to have just just random people make the craziest stuff you've never heard of. It's like just the person popping into my head is Hukan Risu, who's like a multi-game jam winner, who just made just the funniest games. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it's that. Otherwise, no, nothing. Just the communication formats, I think, is the biggest change, in my experience. What about you guys? Let me interview you a little bit.
I think you're head on. Like, it is interesting how so much of the communication has just moved from forums to Discord.
I feel like
we're a little bit sad, but
yeah, I feel like there's just been a lot of like development generally, and the fan games in general have become a lot more like homogenized. Like, there are a lot more games, I feel like, that kind of build to like one or two similar archetypes, and like there are a lot less games being like, there are a lot less like experimental games, I feel like, in my view.
I will say the opposite. I feel like, if anything, fan games recently are trending more towards like trying to experiment more with the Pokemon formula, because we've gotten so many of like just straight Pokemon games. You have to be different to stand out.
Yeah, I guess I would agree with that. I think there's just like a lot of games that we don't like realize are just there that we just kind of skip over because they are like your classic Pokemon game. But I do agree like with your statement, Andy, in like a game jam setting, because I think that a lot of game jam games have definitely upped the creativity in recent years.
I feel like game jam season is like when you squeeze an orange and all the juice comes out.
Yep.
Every game jam season, we just get a shit ton of random cool little games. I mean, it's cool the variety of things people come up with.
Honestly, like game jams, like those are games from game jams are probably my favorite fan games just in general.
I tend to agree, just because I don't know, I like the idea of like small bite-sized games. That's not to like, for example, if we're gonna use an Atomic Reactor game, like that's not saying obviously that Infinity is not a game that I don't want to play. Obviously Infinity is an amazing game and one of the best ever, I would argue personally. But it's,
for the record, I'm not like holding a gun to your head, just so.
No, I'm saying this of my own free will. That probably makes it sound like you're holding a gun to my head more now, doesn't it?
No, you're not making the case very well, Cade.
I'm not. I'll stop while I'm maybe just a little behind. But something about the small bite-sized games really appeals to me, I guess, as a player.
I feel like I can't obviously speak for Cade, but for me, those are definitely more appealing because I'm not the type of person that really wants to sit at my computer desk on my computer to play Pokemon. If I'm going to play Pokemon, I'd like to play on my phone. Now, luckily, Joy Play exists, and you can play a lot of fan games on your phone now, so that's really cool. But yeah, I think game jams, being shorter, it's like, I don't know. It's hard for me personally to want to sit down at my computer to invest a lot of time into a big game. Shorter bursts just seem so much more appealing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess we're coming towards the end of the time, aka I need to go to work soon. Did someone want to ask a final question?
Do we want this to be silly or not?
Do you have a silly one in store?
I have one that's gonna piss Atomic Reactor off.
Oh,
Sure,
God.
go ahead.
I was just gonna ask if I can use all of your tiles from Infinity in my next fan game.
Sure, but if you do, I'm gonna start up a Patreon and start taking money for Infinity, and then I'm gonna get us both taken down by C&D. It's called mutually assured destruction. You might want to look it up.
Ah, I see. Okay. Oh,
There
you
you
know what we
go.
never actually asked about? One little thing. We didn't really touch on your tutorial series at all.
Oh yeah.
What was at least the idea or like origin of that?
I don't know. That's it. That's my answer. God, it's I gotta transport my mind back to that time period. I think I had a YouTube channel and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with it. I wanted to. I think I had done a bunch of LPs of games. Probably ended up doing some fan game LPs real early on. And then I just felt like there was a need or a use for tutorials on how to do, essential stuff. Like I don't think that really existed at the time. And so I was at the time I was going to school to become a teacher, and so I was already interested in trying to educate people. And some I think Tom knows, and maybe you guys know, like I am an art teacher. outside of online life and outside of work, I do like to do art. I draw and I paint, and I obviously do digital art, pixel art, stuff like that. Um, and so I also like to help people do that stuff. And so just that combination of just kind of who I am, I went into that field, but also did that a little bit just on my own with doing tutorials for essentials. Yeah, I think the idea really was just to make some videos on some very basic things that you need to know how to do for essentials and give people advice and just kind of have fun with it. And I can't remember how many. I want to say 30. I don't know. It's been so long. I don't remember how many videos I made. At least 18. The number 18 sticks out in my head. So at least 18 videos I made. But yeah, those actually garnered a decent amount of attention. And then I kind of used that, like the subscriber base for that, because that's really all I ended up doing after the fact. I just kind of just focused on those videos. Then I kind of used that to try and convince people to come join this new site, Relic Castle, where we will help each other make games and give each other feedback so we can, just make the best games we can. And then Relic Castle was born, and obviously leading to EV Expo eventually. But yeah, I think once I graduated college and started to get into the professional field, I just with my videos, I would swear in them, not in like any crude way, but I just wouldn't censor myself if I was explaining something. Kind of like in this conversation, I've sworn a few times, in case you can't play this version of it, and maybe I had made jokes. I mean, I can't remember anything, but I probably had made jokes that I probably wouldn't want a future employer to hear or something like that.
I mean, it can't be as bad as some of the stuff we've said on this podcast.
Okay, well, no,
Mainly
because he said he didn't say anything crude.
Exactly.
And so I was getting to the point where I was like, okay, I don't really want like an online presence. I don't like this lifestyle, this this side of me, the YouTube stuff, it's not important enough to me to just even worry about. So I just deleted all my videos. I mean, I have my channel so I can use YouTube, but I don't upload anything. I think last time I uploaded was just a video to tell people hey, Infinity exists. But I also was totally fine with deleting my videos because right around the time I started to trail off and not make them, Thundaga started to make some, and they were good quality. See, when I did my videos, I knew what I wanted to cover in that video, but I never did any pre-work. I didn't set anything up or test anything, so I just had to do it on the spot. It was essentially a live recording of me trying to explain how to do something, and if it didn't end up working, there was a video where I did a whole video, and in the end, it just didn't work. I did something wrong, and I didn't know how. So at the end of the video, I was like, "Yeah, sorry for wasting your time. That's it." And it's that kind of stuff that I'm like, I don't want people to watch these. I tried to be entertaining in them, so at least if you didn't learn something, you were entertained. I didn't want people to come to my channel and watch these videos and have me waste their time. If Thundaga is making better videos with better quality that are just more helpful, there doesn't need to be two of us. I don't want to do this anymore, so I got rid of all my stuff. And Thundaga, I've seen some of his videos. Funny enough, I've had to go to his videos to learn how to do something myself. And so that's just really weird how it connects like that. But yeah, his video quality was just so much better, and I was like, this guy, people should go to him. He is the one to I'm leaving this in good hands with Thundog. It's not like we talked, or it's not like I told him hey, you should do this. But I saw his videos and thought, you know what, the world is in good hands if I delete my shit. So yeah, that was my YouTube run.
Well, great answer, thank you.
Yeah.
Tom, I'm guessing you probably need to go here soon.
I do need to go soon, so I think that's a good way to end it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me.
No,
thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
I guess, Cade, do you want to do a final spiel?
Spiel? Sure. Yeah, again, thank you for Atomic Reactor for coming on. This was great. In the comment section below, if you've made it to this point, comment your favorite Fakemon or character or both from Pokemon Infinity. And if you're a real one, say if you ever watched an Atomic Reactor tutorial video, because that's how I got into fan games. Anyways, that's going to be it from us at Hints of Hisui. And we will see you all for the next episode. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye bye.